Good morning. My name is Annette Mize, and it is my honor to serve as a member of your spiritual council at this time and in this place. Oh, my goodness, what a week we've had, right? Has it been a week? It's been a week on personal levels. It's been a week on national levels. It's been a week on global levels. And it seems like we just keep having these weeks. I'm just saying. So just when you think it's going to be a boring opportunity to get up here and speak, things change. David assigns our topics in advance. He tells us the general idea of what he wants us to talk about. And months ago, I was given the joyful opportunity to talk about fear. I'm just saying, fear. Thanks. Thanks, David, wherever you are. So fear, and he said, and throw in something about creating change. Okay. So I sat with that a long time, and I thought I knew where I was going until this last week or 10 days kind of rolled around, and then it took everything to another level. It really did, because for me to just get up here and give you an acronym of facing change or some 3-step process to deal with facing fear in your life and that kind of thing, that's powerful and that's important, and it's important to be fed that way. But sometimes we have to stand up after a week like we've had, and we have to talk about some harder things that could be fearful. So where I want to start with this, though, is in a different place. So I'm going to ask for your indulgence for a moment, and we're going to do a little exercise. And I think we can do this with the lights down. We should be fine with that. What I want you to do, and this won't take very long, so bear with me. What I want you to do is I want you to turn to someone next to you. We're going to pair up. We're going to do it quietly. Just pair up. Find who you're going to pair with. Okay? If you don't have someone to pair with, I want you to raise your hand and very quickly. Okay, so we do need some lights. Thank you, light person. Find a person that you're going to pair with. Okay, if you don't have a pair, raise your hand and find each other quickly. Okay? Find each other. You can go back to your seats in just a few moments. Okay? And now, while the last of you are doing that, I want one of you to be A and one of you to be B. So figure out who's going to be A and who's going to be B. Okay, that's all it needs. That's all you need. Tie it up. Zip. Tie it off. Good. Managing a crowd of this size is always an opportunity. So, okay, and so for those of you watching me, okay, I want you to know that you are A and I am going to be your B, okay? So you be A and I'm going to be B at this point, all right? So everybody online, no matter the time, I know you're not watching this in real time, but it's okay, because there really isn't anything. Time is an illusion. All right. So person A, I want you to begin to hold in your heart something that is grieving you. I want you to hold in your heart something that you have a grievance about, something that's challenging you, something that you might be fearful about, or just something that is a grievance or a grief to you. Hold that in your heart. And person B, silently now, this is all silent. Person B, you're going to shower your person with love. You're going to feel that heart space open, and you're going to just send love, loving kindness, the feeling of compassion. Those energies are going to flow from you to person A. So person A, I'm going to be doing that for you. And so for the next moment or two, go into your space, feel your grievance, or send your love. you feel the room shift? Let that love flow freely to your person A. And person A, receive that feeling of love. And everybody take a deep breath. And now we're going to switch. And person B is going to feel that grief or that grievance. What is the thing that you're grieving right now? What is the grievance you have? What is your challenge? What is your fear? I want you to hold that in your mind, as I will for you. And person B is now going to shower person A. No, wait. Person A is now going to shower person B with that love and with that compassion, that loving kindness. And so begin. And so we receive that love. We receive that energy of loving care, loving kindness, compassion. And again, we take a deep breath together. All right. Wouldn't it just feel good to just be there like that? Just stay in that place. So I'm going to invite you to do your best to continue to hold that energy as we go through the talk today. We're going to refer back to this experience a time or two as we move forward. I find in times like these that I often rely on poetry to help me retain my sanity. I've been doing that more and more lately. And I want to share, this is the book that we've been working with all month. It's called Turning to One Another, Simple Conversations to Restore Hope to the Future. And one of Margaret Wheatley is the author of the book. One of her poems in this book is called Flawless, and it goes like this. For far too many years, I have wanted to be flawless. Perfecting my pursuits, I bargained all for love. For all these many years, I've made masks of my own doing. Pursuing my perfection, I found I was pursued. And then one day I fell, sprawled, flattened, lost on the fertile ground of myself. Naked in dirt, no mask, no bargains, I raised my soiled face, and there you were. I struggled to stand. Dirt from my body clouded your eyes. Your hand reached for me. Blinded, your hand reached me. There is in all of us a place of pure perfection. We discover its geography together. A couple of lines from that poem really touched me. Dirt from my body clouded your eyes. How often does the dirt of someone else cloud our eyes? The thing we don't like about them, it clouds our eyes. The thing that is different about them, it can cloud our eyes. But then she says, blinded, your hand reached me. When we stop seeing those differences, when we stop seeing the dirt, then we can reach, then we can connect, then we can touch. Fear is an interesting thing. It can paralyze us or it can move us into action. But the thing about fear is that if we ignore it, it will haunt us. It will inform our actions. It will shape how we create our future. And so we're called to face our fears. We're called to face our fears. Turn to them, not in giving them power, but turn to them and look at them so that we know what they look like. So that when they come to us with a different mask on, we're like, oh no, I've looked in your eyes, fear. I know what you are, even though you're wearing a different mask today. But that takes courage. It takes courage to get to that place where we can face our fears. And yet there seems to be a paradox there, because if I am fearful, how can I be courageous? But they are of the same energy. They are of the same stuff. It just requires a bit of a shift. So there are a couple of fears I want us to look at today. We all have our own personal individual fears, but I want to look at some collective fears today. One of the collective fears I want to look at has to do with our belief in right and wrong. Most of history has been based on a belief or an understanding of this is right and this is wrong. The problem with that foundation is that with right and wrong, somebody is right and somebody is wrong. That's a problem, okay? Because we all fear being wrong. That's a major fear. We fear being wrong, and we are so convinced of our own wrongness that we perpetuate more and more wrongness. We are so convinced on some level of our unworthiness because of being bad or being evil, whether it's conscious or subconscious, that we perpetuate that cycle of oppressed and oppressor. Oppressed and oppressor. The oppressed becomes, today's oppressed becomes tomorrow's oppressor. This has happened throughout history. And we're warned that it will happen again. It will continue to perpetuate itself when we base our decisions and our shaping of the future on right versus wrong. Because here's the thing about right and wrong, or good and bad. It is dependent on perspective and perception. Now, our perspective is where we're standing, and our perception is our baggage that we carry along with that perspective. So, one person has a perspective in there's a perspective for someone in Mexico, and there's a perspective for someone in Texas, and there's a perspective for someone in Bar Harbor, Maine. Okay? There's a big difference. There's a different place in the world. All of these places are different, and they're all the people are going to have a different perspective. They're also going to have a different perception. Some people were raised with happy, loving parents, and some people were raised in abusive situations. So their perception is going to be different, along with the perspective. Now, the problem with this is it's complex. It means we live in a complex situation, complex societies, a complex time. But if I can just boil things down to good and bad, or right and wrong, then I can feel good, I can feel right, and I can make someone else wrong. And I won't have to face my fear, yet another fear. I won't have to face my fear of complexity, because we actually fear complexity. What if I don't know the right answer? Guess what? We don't. We don't always know the answer. We want to believe we know the answer, but a lot of times we have to engage in uncomfortable conversations to uncover an answer. But we live in an age where we want to Google the answer, right? We want to Google the answer, and we want it to be right. Alexa, what do I do about world peace? Okay? Alexa, what do we do about our border? What do we do? Now, it's pretty much a given. I can pretty much guess that most everyone in this room feels like it's wrong to rip the child out of the arms of their mother. That's pretty much a given, and I'm with you on that. It is. If I'm just looking at right and wrong. But when I look at loving kindness, if I make my base something other than right and wrong, and I choose a different place to stand, if I make my stand love, if I make my stand loving kindness, if I make my stance the ground I stand on, the foundation I work from, if I make that compassion and wisdom, because there's an Eastern teaching that tells us that love is a bird with two wings. One wing is compassion, and one wing is wisdom. And that bird needs both of the wings. That's a topic for a whole nother talk, okay? But we're going to just hold that for a moment. So if I make my stance compassion, loving kindness, then it's still wrong. It's still inappropriate, we'll use that word, it's inappropriate to rip the child from the mother's arms. But the thing about that, the reason we have such a tendency to want to live in right and wrong and good and evil rather than in compassion and wisdom is because compassion and wisdom calls us to a higher place. It calls us to a greater responsibility and a greater accountability. Because in a place of compassion and wisdom, well, let me back up. In a place of good and bad, we can sit in this room and say that it's bad, it's wrong to judge someone on their skin color, right? If I'm going to judge you because you're darker or lighter in skin tone than I am, that's wrong. But if I'm going to stand here in a place of compassion and loving kindness and say that it's inappropriate to judge someone on their skin color, then that also means whether they're lighter in skin tone than me or darker or in skin tone than me, or dare I say, more orange in skin tone than me, right? It calls me to a higher standard. And if I falter, and which we all will, when I falter and I mock someone because of the color of their skin, I'm called to a higher standard to recognize it. And then I have to face my fear of being wrong, my fear of making a mistake, my fear of being just like everyone else. Because guess what? I am just like everyone else, and so are you. We are not morally better than other people. We are not morally superior. We are all people. We are all people, and we are all going to make mistakes. And so what I'm trying to get at here is I want us to look at ourselves as hard as we demand that other people look at themselves. And I was terrified to get up here and do that. Let me just tell you that, because I would much rather get up here and tell you some 3-step process to overcome your fears. but I want us to look at our fears. I want us to look at our fears and move forward with them. So, loving kindness is a non-respecter of persons. It requires that I be just as loving and kind to a person I disagree with as a person I agree with. It requires that I stand in paradox at times and breathe through my discomfort. It's uncomfortable not knowing the answers to things, but we live in a complex society right now and a complex world. And I got to tell you, as much as I'd like to say it's going to get better, and it will, I do have faith and trust in the overarching beneficence for everyone. I also recognize that there are times that it gets darker before it gets light. There are times that it gets harder before it gets easier. And the complexities that we are dealing with are large. We think the media wants us to boil it down to a sound bite and a photograph. Whether that soundbite or that photograph was taken out of context doesn't matter. What matters to the media is the energy it stirs up inside of you. And that's great. We need some energy stirred up inside of us because we need to move and we need to make some changes. But we need to guide those changes with wisdom and compassion, not just reactionary right and wrong. Am I right? Okay, am I right? All right, so we need to hold ourselves accountable, and we need to make amends when we make affronts, and we need to have courage to face our complexities, because the border is only going to get more crowded. I am blessed to work with people from all over the world. I work in caregiving, I work in home care, and a lot of our caregivers come from other countries. But they can't walk across the border. They have to fly in. And so most of the ones I work with have to go through a process to come in here, just because of geography. So I kind of see both sides of this. But we are always going to have a border. We're going to have a land where people can travel, and that's a great thing. The problems on the border are complex, and they are only going to get more complex as climate changes. This is something we need to think about. Climate change is going to make things a little more anxious out there. It's already making things more anxious. The violence in the world is making things anxious. So, having violence in our personal hearts does not assist in dissipating the violence in the whole, right? We know that. David stands up here, all of our teachers stand up here, and they remind us that we personally have to do the work. So I invite you yet again to personally do the work and pull out your magnifying glass and look at yourself. Where are you not walking your talk? We gotta walk our talk. Fortunately, most of us do. But when we go out into the world and we begin to work with people that don't come here every week, it's easy to forget, and it's easy to turn back into right and wrong. Well, they're just wrong and I'm just right. And it's always more complex than that. It's always more. That's one of the reasons the myth or the story, the teaching of the tree of good and evil is so powerful, is because it's unfolding every day around us. When I choose from the tree of good and bad, I label that bad and this good, I automatically set up polarity. Automatically. I automatically make that happen. But if instead I stop and say, I'm curious, tell me more. Tell me more about why you believe this. Tell me more about what your fears are. But guess what? To hear somebody else's fears, I have to have my fears right here where I can see them. Because otherwise they're going to come up behind me and they're going to stab me in the back. So I need to know what my fears are right here. Here you are. So that I can be present with you in your fears. And as we step out into the world to work and to have conversations and to guide change, because let me tell you, you don't have to create change. It's already happening, okay? Change is happening. It's out there. What it needs is the guide of wisdom to guide the change. And to do that, I need to know where I stand. I need to know what my rudder is. And if my rudder, if my guidelines are good and evil, then I am just going to perpetuate more and more and more of what's going on in the world. But if my guidance has something to do with compassion and wisdom, somehow, whatever the wording is that fits for me, loving kindness, beneficence, if that is my rudder, then I'm much more likely to make positive change in the world. So let me read you another poem. And she has this poem in our book from Rainer Maria Rilke. You mustn't be frightened if a sadness rises in front of you, larger than any of you have ever seen, if an anxiety like light and cloud shadows moves over your hands and over everything you do. You must realize that something is happening to you, that life has not forgotten you, that it holds you in its hand and will not let you fall. Life is holding you in its hand and it will not let you fall. Life is holding our nation in its hand. And dear God, don't let it let us fall. And yet, today's fall is tomorrow's uprising. Today's fall, today's skin knee is tomorrow's stance of strength. We fell this week. We fell. We witnessed ourselves as a nation behave poorly, behave inappropriately. And it's hard to face that at times. But if I can face that and not condemn myself for badness, but allow myself to rise up in compassion and wisdom, then perhaps tomorrow, perhaps the next day, the next time, I won't fall so bad. Perhaps the next time we vote, I'm just saying, the next time we have an opportunity, we won't fall so hard. We won't skin our knee so badly. But if I'm condemning, I won't see my opportunity. I have to know my flaw. I have to face my flaw. I have to face my fear while looking beyond it to opportunity. What is my opportunity? Where is my opportunity to serve and bless? And I loved hearing from Victoria. I had no idea you were doing this, but I want to know more about it. This is a wonderful way to serve, to go and be with people in their suffering. But to do that, we can't wallow in our own, right? We can't wallow in our own. So having that courage, developing that courage is very important. Margaret Wheatley writes, we grow courage for those things that speak to our hearts. Once our heart is engaged, it is easy to be brave. The word courage comes from the Old French, meaning of the heart. Of the heart. That courage comes of the heart. And hearts are broken open to reveal courage. My heart was broken open today. I mean, I didn't know my heart could break so many times in 1 year. I'm not kidding you. But it also made me stop and think about all the other times in life that children are ripped from the arms of their parents. It happens every day when parents die, and none of this is about poo-pooing what happened on our border. It's not about that, but it's about going deeper with it, because this does happen every day. Children are abused every day. Children are removed from their families every day because their families are not caring for them properly. All the time. And here's one of the ones that really gets me. It's the same energy. Stay with me. I'm walking through the park, or I'm at a restaurant, and I see a child desperately wanting the attention of their parents. And guess what I see? I see the parents on their freaking thing, cell phone, their tablet, whatever it is. They're on their cell phone, and their child is desperately trying to get their attention. And that breaks my heart every single day. And I want to go up to people and say, you know, you are wrong. I'm going to get my mom voice on. I'm going to tell you, because I'm a grandmother too. I'm going to tell you, you need to put that down and you need to pay attention to your child. But that just makes the parent wrong. And that's not what I really want to do either. I want to come from a place of compassion. I want to come from compassion and wisdom. Wisdom is important. And so what I do takes us full circle back to just a few minutes ago. Okay? So what I try to remember to do in those moments is I try to remember to send them love. Just send them love. But guess what? If I'm judging them, my love is blocked. I hate that. Because sometimes I just want to judge people. You know, I just want to judge you. This is a real growing edge for me. I was born and raised in judgment. I mean, it is my roots. Okay, condemnation. So I have to stop, and I have to look at myself, and I have to take a deep breath. So as I begin to finish up here, I want us to remember our exercise a few minutes ago. A couple of key points from that. Number one, you had no idea what the person you were loving was thinking about, did you? You didn't. That person could have been grieving over a wrong they committed to someone else. They could have been grieving over anything they've heard on the news. They could have been grieving over the way they kicked their dog. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter, did it? It did not matter. You were able to shower them with love because your thoughts did not get in the way. Your thoughts about the thing did not get in the way. We think our thoughts are our friends. I'm here to tell you. They are rarely your friends. They are really only your friends when they are in alignment with spirit. When you are in a state of surrender and release. I don't know what the answer is, but Lord help me, I know you do. Dear God, I'm so grateful that there's something bigger than my little head running this show. Okay? I don't see the whole big picture. Frankly, I don't want to. Okay? I used to think I wanted to. I don't want to. It's out of my pay grade. Okay? That's out of my pay grade. Dear Lord, guide us. Guide us, guide my steps so that they assist and not hinder. Teach me to be peaceful rather than condemning others to peace, condemning others for their lack of peace. We're 6 months into our 2.0. We've been actively serving in the community. We've been going deeper in our talks on Sundays. We've been doing the challenging work. And every day we must be waking up and asking, what is mine to do? What is mine to do? And so what I want to leave you with is one final brief reading. And this is from yet another favorite poet of mine, Mark Nepo. I read from Mark yesterday. This is going to be a different thing. And this is not a poem, but this is from his last chapter in 7,000 Ways to Listen, one of my go-to books. And this is from the chapter No Strangers in the Heart. And he writes this: I had a dream the other day in which my job was to sweep the temple floor at dawn. I couldn't find the temple and wasn't sure where to begin when an old man came up to me. He looked like one of those small ancient monkeys with 1,000-year-old eyes. He took my broom and examined the handle. He gave it back and said, "You're holding it too tightly." Then he hopped like a monkey and continued, "The secret is that the temple is anywhere you wake." He left, and I started sweeping where I stood, and a path appeared which I felt compelled to take. Then I woke. So, folks, I invite you to wake. I invite you to begin sweeping where you are and look for the path that finds you. And remember, face your courage, face your fear, have your courage, and walk your talk. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Alt, and I simply want to say thanks. Thanks for taking the time to watch our broadcast here at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We have a vision, and that vision is to reawaken all to their spiritual magnificence. And one of the ways that we are able to do that is through this very medium of broadcasting. So if you got anything out of this, if you felt in any way inspired, or if something spoke to you directly, then I extend an invitation to you to become a part of our family by donating. And there are many ways in order for you to be able to do that. One is to simply go to our website at slca.com, and there you will find all different kinds of prompts that will help you support what it is that we are doing here in Atlanta. One way is to become a pledger. That means that you decide on a monthly basis that you are going to help us with this vision. Another way is to donate through our management system called Fellowship One, another through PayPal, and another even easier way is on your cell phone. You can do what's called text to tithe, and that number is 404-796-7030. Again, thank you so much for your support, and I invite you to come back weekly to see what it is that we're up to. Blessings.